when the Wii was still known as the Revolution and players were anxiously awaiting their first look at the games, Ubisoft's Red Steel burst onto the scene with a bullet, and a razor-sharp katana in tow. With the Wii quickly approaching its November 19th launch date, we're starting to get a closer look at its games, and after spending some time with this hybrid of samurai slashing and gunplay, we're encouraged that there will be something else worth picking up once Hyrule is at peace once again. As the game begins, you're sitting at dinner with your girlfriend when you finally decide to pop the question. With the ring on her finger and joy in her heart, she decides to tell her father the big news. But when you stop by your future father-in-law's workplace, things go terribly awry. Apparently, he's mixed up with some bad people, and they spirit away your new fiancée, hauling her off to Japan to hold her for ransom. Thus begins your trip through the Yakuza underworld in search of your wife-to-be, uncovering her father's shady dealings with unsavory characters at the same time. The story is told through a series of stills, very similar to a comic book. Occasionally, you'll be treated to real-time cinemas using the game's graphics engine, but don't expect Square Enix levels of cinematic splendor. The Yakuza are no joke. In fact, in Japan, it's considered poor etiquette to even speak the word in public, and you quickly learn why after just a few minutes with Red Steel. The dojos, warehouses, and compounds you'll infiltrate are crawling with the thugs, and they're not just going to stand there and let you pump them full of lead with the Wii remote. They'll take cover, take potshots at you, and otherwise navigate the environment the way real humans would. All the while, the fully destructible environments are being splintered, blasted, and bashed to bits. As you might expect, playing Red Steel is much like playing a first-person shooter on the PC. The analog stick on the nunchuck attachment controls movement, while the Wii remote controls your aim. The only difference is that it takes a lot longer to turn around in Red Steel, making the gameplay more similar to light gun games like Time Crisis or House of the Dead than a free-looking first-person shooter. Oftentimes, it's much better to get yourself set up with a broad view of the environment and pick off enemies versus running up to them and trying to take them out one by one. This is aided by the numerous cover points peppered throughout the game. You can walk up to a table, give the nunchuck a quick upward thrust, and you'll flip it over to use it for cover. Just don't stay there for too long. Like most of the objects in the game, the cover is destructible too, which can leave you high and dry when the Yakuza is spraying bullets left and right. If you do get plugged with some rounds, your health meter will drop, and when it hits 0, you're dead, and you'll have to restart at one of the game's plentiful checkpoints. However, much like Halo, if you can find a safe spot to squat for a few seconds, the meter will replenish on its own. There's a lot of depth to using the armaments in the game. There's an aim assist option for those with unsteady hands, and zooming in on a target is accomplished by thrusting the Wii remote towards the TV and holding the A button. It's fairly subtle for things like machine guns and shotguns, but with the sniper rifle, it's incredibly pronounced, and quite lethal. Additionally, there's the focus mode that slows down time and allows you to target particular spots on the enemies. It's governed by a meter that gradually grows as you take out the Yakuza, and is enacted by thrusting the Wii remote towards the TV, without holding the A button. This is most effective for disarming foes, but beware, if you let them live, they'll wait for you to walk away, pick their weapons back up, and continue the fight. You can also disarm enemies by getting up close and personal. Under certain conditions, an icon will pop up on the screen, and a swipe of the nunchuck controller will allow you to take the enemy's weapon away or leave them in a stunned condition. Grenades are probably the most fun to be had with the game. While holding the D-pad, you can toss a grenade by using a throwing motion with the nunchuck controller, or roll it along the ground with an underhanded gesture to give the Yakuza a special surprise at their feet. You also have controls for jumping and ducking, and you can reload your weapon by giving the nunchuck a good shake. Red Steel isn't all about gunpowder though. At certain points in the game, you'll come across sword-wielding characters, and you'll get a chance to unsheath your blade and take part in some first-person slicing. There are 8 different motions you can make with the Wii remote to simulate the swing of the sword, including combos that you can trigger for extra damage. You can also hold the B button and bring both controllers down at once for a double-bladed strike. As the saying goes, sometimes the best offense is a good defense, and this certainly holds true in Red Steel. Bringing both the Wii remote and the nunchuck up at the same time will initiate a blocking move, or you can hold the C button on the nunchuck and press left or right on the analog stick to rip off an evasive strafe. Either will leave your opponent vulnerable for a short time. Once you've downed the enemy, you can choose to finish them with one final blow, or let them live, which will reward you with honor points that are tallied throughout the game. The sword fighting mechanics are surprisingly in-depth, but while locked into these clanging confrontations, it's hard not to want to pull out a gun and end it Indiana Jones style. You can put all of these methods to practice in the multiplayer mode for up to 4 players. Details are sketchy at this point, but we do know that the speaker in the Wii remote will be heavily involved in what appears to be a marked man type of option. You can't play multiplayer online, but that's true of every single Wii launch game. When shopping for games at the launch of the Wii, understandably, a lot of you have your eyes locked firmly on Link's latest adventure. Red Steel is one of those games that may surprise you. It's easily one of the best-looking Wii launch games, and it has that epic feel that few titles released at a console's birthing have. The attention to detail from the reloading and cell phone sound effects coming from the Wii's remote speaker to the destructible environments are pretty darn impressive. What will ultimately determine its worth is how easily players can come to grips with the complex controls. You won't have to wait long to find out, so keep your eyes peeled for our in-depth review coming soon.